Let's take this one to the bridge. That was the bridge. We'll stop right there. Okay. Was anybody interested in hearing a little more about the possibility that the first Natsarim, they call, the apostles and the first people that followed Yahusha, do you think they were speaking Greek to each other? And that they wrote down the record in Greek? Or was it possibly misinformation that people have inherited from seminary-trained pastors to basically reinforce the Christian mythology that they were Christians, or maybe that Greek word Christianity, which isn't even in the scriptures. But there is maybe that would justify the fact that they label themselves that way. But the first Natsarim were lived nothing like Christians, and they didn't speak Greek. There was one that we know of that did, and maybe two. Possibly, we know Paul did, and possibly Luke. These were highly educated men. The rest of the followers of Yahusha didn't seem to be very, scholarly. They were very common people, and I don't even know for sure. We don't really have a real solid evidence that Peter could read and write, because someone else was writing for him. And they wrote for Paul too, but Paul wrote in his own hand. He wrote very large, and that was one of the indications that it was really him. But I just learned that this past weekend, that he had a signal or a code. So, were the Natsarim letters written in Greek? The first document retrieved in 1947 from Cave 1 at Qumran was the Hebrew script from the writings of Matthew. The Jesuit scroll team swooped in to sequester the contents of all the caves before other scrolls could be shown to the world. And we're still waiting for that to happen. Has anybody seen Matthew written in Hebrew? It was the first document taken from the cave. Cave 1. Yahusha spoke in Hebrew to Shaul, who later became Paul. When he was on the road to Damascus, he was knocked down, and a bright light appeared and blinded Paul. And the other people heard a voice, but they couldn't see anything. And they were probably walking, but they were knocked down to the ground. And the voice that spoke to them was saying, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? And he was speaking in Hebrew. The text at Acts says so. The captain arresting Paul in chapter 21, starting around verse 37. That captain was surprised to hear Paul ask him a question in Greek. May I have a word with you, or may I speak to you, please? And the captain turned and said, you speak Greek? Because the people around him weren't, the people in the riot. And it's obvious that this was a very uncommon language among those causing the civil unrest. Then, when Paul was given permission by the captain to speak, he spoke in Hebrew, and they all became quiet and listened to him. And another evidence that it was not, the record of the first Natsarim was not written in Greek, is the content of the Greek contains Hebrew idioms. And they're recorded in all the Greek translations, and they point to a Hebrew original basis, because the Greek it carries it over from the Hebrew. Another thing is the oldest Greek documents from the first Natsarim letters date no earlier than the 3rd century, meaning there was plenty of time for the copies to be made from the Hebrew and from other Greek copies that would be wearing out. And the result of that was that there are, from the 22,000 plus remnant copies of the Greek, no two sentences match exactly. This means the Greek texts were interpretations of original Hebrew texts. The idea of the first Natsarim writing their letters in Greek is very, very difficult to believe, except to those who are willing to accept anything they hear. And when they hear a pastor coming out of a seminary who was told that they were written originally and inspired in Greek, it's easy for them to believe that. And the first impression is difficult to really change. So there's pastors running around arguing, no, they were written in Greek. Well, they don't have any proof of that, but there's plenty of evidence that they were not Greek, nor did they speak Greek. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next exciting video.